Hi, I'm Jack Draper. Shout out to Quality Shot Tennis.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's another preview and prediction video for the quarterfinal of Roland Garros 2023. And today's video is on Holger Rune versus Casper Ruud. They actually played each other in the 2022 Roland Garros quarterfinal as well. So will it be repeat or revenge? Casper Ruud got the better of Holger Rune last year in 4 sets. Let's see if Holger Rune can reverse that in 2023. Before we get into it though, remember to hit that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Okay, this is what we're going to do. As always, we normally go through their matches from the week or the slam so far. We'll have a quick touch point on how they've looked and also what potentially to look out from in terms of the matches they've played as well. On top of that, we will then have a quick look at the head-to-head, which is in favour of Casper Ruud, 4-1 to the Norwegian, and discuss the Rome match and also the Roland Garros match last year. On top of that, we'll then break it down strategically and tactically as to how I think the match might play out, and then ultimately give you guys my prediction. So, let's have a quick look at the matches they've played at Roland Garros so far. So, Holger Rune, it's been an interesting tournament. Beat Eubanks in 4 sets, probably a little bit harder than he expected. Monfils was the withdrawal, so got a bit of rest there, probably much needed. Then faced 2 Argentinians, one in Olivieri, beat him in straight sets, and then Cerundolo, a very tough match, very, very tough match against Cerundolo. Went to a final set tiebreaker, won it 10-7 in the end, if I'm not mistaken. It was a tough, tough match though. 1-3-2 in the end, but yeah, not a match that he would have been happy with, especially in terms of his level. Fluctuated quite a lot during that match, and there's some massive dips which he'll be hoping are behind him in this tournament. For Casper Ruud, he's had an interesting route, but pretty straightforward. Beat Eimer in the first round in straight sets. Zeppieri dropped a set but beat him in 4. Same with Zhili Zhang. And then with Nicholas Jarry, who actually beat him in Geneva a week and a half ago, he beat him in very, very tight fashion, but 3 tight sets, but still a straight set victory in the end. 7-6, 7-5, 7-5. So a very, very good victory for Casper Ruud, and he marches on. Of course, Roland Garros finalist from last year. He's picked up some nice form after making the semi-finals of Rome, losing to Holger Rune, and yeah, he's really finding his form again, which is fantastic for him. In terms of the head-to-head, talking of that Rome match, Holger Rune beat Casper Ruud in 3 sets. He beat him 6-7, 6-4, 6-2. Good victory there for the Danish player, and I have to say he's looking pretty good, in all honesty. Holger Rune, not just in this tournament and prior months, but for the last year or so, and he is definitely a different player to the player that Casper Ruud played last year at Roland Garros. And the Rome victory, I think, is a testament to that. Then the last match they played before that was that French Open quarterfinal. He lost in 4 sets. Also lost to him in Monte Carlo, in Sweden as well, and then Monte Carlo in 2021 as well. So those are all straight set victories. So what can we look out for in terms of the tactical, and technical aspects of this matchup and what might end up developing in this match? So there's a few things. I think we can touch upon the serve-return dynamic first. So Casper Ruud, his serve is really key. If he's making a lot of first serves, then it tends to mean that he either gets some free points on his serve, or mainly what happens is he tends to then be able to dictate with the forehand. His serve +1 play is pretty crucial to success behind his serve, and also in matches as well. He wants to be able to dictate with the forehand on clay. He hits the ball with a lot of shape, a lot of coverage over the net, spin, and it's very, very effective on this surface, that forehand. It's a real, real weapon, to say the least. So it's something that he'll be looking to utilize as much as possible, of course. And given his backhand is not necessarily a weapon and can be seen as a weakness at times, even on clay, I think the forehand is very key for him, especially the in-to-out forehand and in-to-in forehand from that ad court. He'll also look to come forward at times as well. I think it's pretty crucial that he does so behind his serve, especially when he hits those big booming ground strokes from the back of the court. He will not be shy coming forward, but it won't be his go-to, I would say, as well. His serve isn't the biggest, but he does hit his spots and it can be very effective. Holger Rune, though, he's a pretty proficient returner, very natural in his returning ability, and he's always willing to change return position as well, which is a definite plus. He's willing to come forward if needed or stay far behind the baseline. He's not rigid in his return position, which is pretty good. I do like that. When they tinker with it too much, it can be very hard to find a rhythm on your return and then manage to time the returns well. But I think he's pretty good at finding a balance. In terms of Holger Rune's serve, I don't think it's quite as competent as Casper Ruud's, but then neither is Casper Ruud's returning in comparison to Rune's. I think for Rune, he is a little bit up and down on serve at times, probably not serving in terms of first serves made as high as he would like to in terms of percentages. But the one thing that he's been doing quite well, and I actually like, is his willingness to come forward actually and serve and volley, especially from the ad side. He's quite willing, especially on big points against Cerundolo. He rushed the net and it worked, even on second serve at times. He's got a good kick serve, which will come in handy, of course, on the clay with it rearing up, especially given Casper Ruud is not the tallest player. And also he does have deficiencies on that backhand side, especially with the kick serve, which I think Holger Rune will utilize as much as possible. I think Casper Ruud's got to find a way to get around that. He might try to run around it onto the forehand, but if he has to hit the backhand, he'll have to hit the backhand. His backhand has improved since last year, Casper Ruud's, but I do still think it's something that can be taken advantage of if you utilize the right tactics. So that's the serve return dynamic, and I do think it's relatively even in honesty. I think Holger Rune, given the dynamic of his kick serve into the backhand of Ruud, might have a slight advantage, but not much. Then if we talk about from the back of the court, the forehand to forehand, backhand to backhand exchanges, I think forehand to forehand, Casper Ruud will be pretty confident in those exchanges. I think Holger Rune soaks up pace quite well, though. Manages to deflect it quite well. I think he needs to try and access the Ruud backhand as soon as possible. That means going line as early as possible, because Casper Ruud going line into the Rune backhand is a good tactic and it will work in instances, but Rune's backhand soaks up pressure really well. His defense on the backhand side is actually pretty exceptional for the most part, and that's why he was able to beat Djokovic, say, in Paris last year. Different surface, different conditions, but it just proved that his backhand defense is very good because Djokovic tends to boss the ad court exchanges. Rune was actually getting the better of him in those, to be honest with you. So something for Ruud to bear in mind, I think, and he might look to try and actually utilize the forehand exchange from the juice side, try and find good angles on the forehand, drag Rune out, get him into uncomfortable positions. That would be a pretty good option as well for variation. And then if he is going to go into the ad court, he needs to go hard into the ad court, I would say, into it with the forehand and go big with it. If he's going to go backhand cross, he needs to be willing to trade with Rune. I think he'll probably, as I said, most likely look to go into the backhand with the into-out forehand. If he goes backhand to backhand, it's going to be trouble. Rune will try and find angles and try and really trap Ruud in that backhand corner. And I think there's only one winner when it comes to those exchanges. I think Rune will come out on top unless he goes line with not enough quality into the forehand of Ruud, which could hurt him because we know Ruud's forehand is exceptional at times on the clay. There's something to bear in mind. I think Rune's backhand line is good, but he needs to utilize it only when he knows he can attack. I don't think it's the type of shot to hit as a rallying ball. I also think Rune has a bit more variation on the ground strokes. He's willing to go moonball at times, hit a bit flatter, hit with a bit more angle, a bit more spin, even backhand slice at times for variation to disrupt rhythm. I think that could be a decisive factor against Ruud because he has a bit more variation, Rune, whereas I feel like with Ruud, his rallying ball is fantastic on clay, but there's not a lot of variation. He will hit with a bit more height and coverage, whip that forehand a bit more with spin, but not to the same extent as Rune. He won't slice as much. His backhand slice isn't particularly effective, I would say. And then if we talk about drop shot as well, I think Rune will utilize that a lot. He does like to utilize the drop shot. So if he's able to push Ruud back with depth, which I think is his biggest thing, I don't necessarily think he's got more power than Ruud. I think Ruud's probably more powerful. Rune, though, has the ability to hit with a lot of depth and push players back and then utilize the drop shot. Or come forward, which is a very useful tactic. He's got good hands. He's natural at the net. Rune, from what I've seen as well. Ruud likes to come forward. He's probably not quite as natural as Rune, but he's got solid hands in the net as well. His drop shot, Ruud, is not as good as Rune's from what I know, what I've seen. So I don't think he'll utilize it as much. But there could be some interesting exchanges at the net as always. And then, of course, in terms of passing shots, when people are at the net. I don't think Ruud is the best at passing people on the net. Rune, I think, has a bit more ability when it comes to that factor. So that would be interesting to see how that unfolds as well. Then if we talk about movement and defensive capabilities, I think Rune tops or trumps Ruud when it comes to defensive capabilities on both wings. I think he's very good. And defending, especially with the forehand slice on the forehand, and just being able to defend with height if needed from the back of the court. I think with Ruud, his movement is exceptional around his backhand. I think the way that he's able to dance around the backhand and hit effective into and into out forehands is extremely impressive. There's something that Rune is going to have to bear in mind, and he's going to have to be calculated when going into the backhand side to make sure that when he's going into that side, he knows it's going to be a backhand, and that means hitting to that side with quality and depth and direction and angle that Ruud has to hit a backhand. So some interesting things to bear in mind for it. I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I can see Rune, as I said, trying to take advantage of the Ruud backhand. For Ruud, I think he would have seen the Cerundolo match and seen that Rune can drop in level, and he is prone to making mistakes as well. And if I was Ruud, I would back my game. I would go big with a serve +1. I'd make sure my forehand I'm dictating. Rune is good at defending, but he also wants to be able to have control at times in rallies as well. If Ruud's always dictating the tempo and the pace, it will disrupt Rune. If he's getting a lot of shorter balls, Rune will have to think about what to do and have to adapt his game style. He can get frustrated. So Ruud has obviously beaten him in the past. He knows how to beat him. This is a slightly different version of Rune, but even in Rome, there were some positive signs for Ruud. So an interesting matchup. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, who you think is going to win. I'm going to go for Holger Rune in 4 sets. That's my prediction. Let me know yours, and we'll see you tomorrow for the live watch on. We'll be doing it. It's the evening session tomorrow. Cannot wait for it. Should be a cracker. Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very entertaining. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you in the next video.